Slate on Wednesday afternoon, evening, whatever. Excuse me. Smaller slate, but it should be. It's actually a pretty good one. It's a lot of options, and I think it's going to be somewhat spread out ownership, especially pitching wise, at least as of right now. So, Sheets, any overall thoughts before we pull up your screen and go game by game?
Yeah, first of all, I don't think I'm going to be available live today, just so you guys know. But I'm going to pull up my screen, and there's for an 8-game slate. I mean, there are some options here.
Yeah.
So let's see if we can get this. There's some good pitching. There's they took the not they took, but the Padres, Colorado's off the slate. So it's a pretty fair slate here. Let's see if we can't figure this out.
Yep. All right. Well, let's go. Let's start with the first one. Yankees and Tampa Bay. I like both of these pitchers. I like the ownership on McClanahan a lot, and I think that we're gonna see him start to go a little bit deeper as he's had 3 starts back. So I'm high on both these pitchers and not interested in any of the hitting.
I'm definitely not interested in any of the hitting. And I am also interested in both pitchers. McClanahan 9,300, Cole 10.8. I really don't have a preference one over the other. Given price, I think McClanahan catches up. And these are 2 of my. Okay, so in context of the whole slate, I have about 6 or 7 pitchers that I'm willing to play, maybe even 8 actually.
Mm-hmm.
And let's just say that these 2 are certainly 2 of them.
Yep. Yeah, that's where I'm at, and I'll figure it out by the end. But as of right now, I have them both pretty high. All right, the 7:07 game is Toronto and Baltimore. Baltimore off of a tremendous game last night where I didn't want to stack them, and I don't want to say I paid for it, but it would have been nice to have a little bit of that action. Today, I think I feel pretty decent. I feel like both these pitchers are decent. And if I had to pick a side, I guess that I would pick Toronto. But I think that both of these offenses are options, but nothing that really stands out for me here. What about you, Sheets?
Yeah, as far as the hitting goes first, the only place I would go is maybe a little bit of Baltimore, but coming off of the 13 runs or whatever, I usually don't like to play that. I have both pitchers as kind of within my list of 7 or 8 pitchers to play, and Kikuchi sounds like the kind of guy I'd want to play against a team coming off 13 runs. Just a little tricky. So he's definitely on my list. Probably at the end of the day, I promise you he's not going to be my big buy-in, but he's going to be in the in MME for sure. So both these guys actually, G-Rod and Kikuchi, I'll have them in MME, but not priorities. And Baltimore, I might have an MME, but definitely not priority as well.
Yeah, that's sort of essentially what I have as well. I do think that taking a shot on a low-owned both of these offenses should be fairly not fairly. It should be really low-owned. So I don't mind the idea of taking either some bats or taking a shot at a stack. And while Grayson Rodriguez is talented, again, all these guys who are young, I think that you could take a gamble and play a team like Toronto if he comes out and struggles at all. That's a tough lineup to face. So I'm open to Toronto for sure there. All right, Twins and Cardinals. It looks like it's. Let me just double check it looks like it's really warm. Yeah, it's actually only 81 there and sort of cross winds right now, so nothing too crazy, but fairly high totals for at least one really good pitcher in Joe Ryan, and then with this Dakota Hudson against Minnesota here, I do think that Minnesota at their prices makes quite a bit of sense, whether you want to fully stack them or use them for pieces. They're just very affordable in a lot of spots. Wallner should be in there at 2,400, Kepler at 3,200. And then you get the, Julian at 3,500 is all reasonable. Then you got Correa and Buxton and Polanco if you want to play the higher level players. But I think that Minnesota is interesting today.
Yeah, I didn't get so much of anything here. The Ryan is literally the 9th of the 9 pitchers that I'm willing to play. It just hasn't seemed to have been doing it recently for me. I don't know. He seemed to be off to a pretty good start, to say the least. He was one of the best pitchers to start off not mistaken.
Yeah.
I don't know if I want to play him today. He's like well down on my list. As far as hitting goes, it's interesting. I didn't think about playing Minnesota. They're not showing up for me quite yet, but I'll give that another look. So right now, this game is probably not much, not too interested in this at all.
Yeah, fair enough. Then we get to which game do you have next?
I have Cease against Dunning, White Sox in Texas.
All right, why don't you start that one off?
I have Cease as one of the top options, which is pretty scary because Texas is they're a really good hitting team, but Cease always seems to have good strikeout upside and is cheap enough, and I have him as one of my top two or three options if you want to know the truth. Dunning I have down the list, but on the list. I mean, anybody against the White Sox is probably going to be on the list. So for me, Cease almost a priority. I mean, I shouldn't say that because there's like 8 or 9 guys I can pick. It's just not as if I don't play Cease. I feel like I'm giving up something, but I do have Cease as one of the top options, and I do have Dunning as here as well. And I'm not getting to any of the hitting.
Yeah, I think that both pitchers you can consider. I also do think that I never mind, on a smaller slate, at least a mini Texas stack. I still think highly of Cease as a pitcher, but he will pitch to some contact and occasionally run into some home runs. But I actually like him. I prefer him more than I do the hitting. And then the White Sox will probably be overlooked, and that's it's probably for good reason. But I think both these teams are sort of like the Baltimore-Toronto situation. I feel like both teams I can make arguments for, but neither I really want to prioritize. And I would side with Cease a little bit over Dunning, obviously. But Dunning is a different, cheap option that might allow you to get in some extra bats if you wanted to. And then you get to the primo game of all the games. I think this is going to be where everybody does their hitting, right? At least I thought that was what would.
I'm not playing the Cubs. You know that.
After 20.
Yeah.
I'm going to go against that and say that I like both these teams and prefer the Cubs over the red side of it. I also think that if you're multi-entering, again, a guy who will be on the outside looking in for me, but maybe not for you, maybe not for people who are multi-entering, it would be Smiley. But mostly I'm interested in both of these offenses. It's 81 degrees in Chicago. It's crosswinds right now, but we'll see how they look at 6 Eastern. I'll be live. This is the highest total on the slate, and I think that one of the best.
These are the 2 top teams. I'm not gonna say they're not. I have Chicago and Cincinnati as literally only as 2 of 3 teams that I have listed on my value rankings and my general upside rankings. So it is a game that you could game stack. You could play either of these teams, either these sides, whatever. I just don't play teams coming off of 20 runs. I prefer. I was about to say I prefer the Cincinnati side, but I actually do have Smiley on my list. So if in fact Cincinnati and Chicago just becomes that team that game that everybody just pounds away on, I would consider playing some Smiley actually. The other thing, just listen, it's all about transparency, right? I am going to have a couple of lineups with Brandon Williams, just on sheer principle.
Yeah, and he's actually been justifiable enough to play.
Yeah. So basically, all 4 prongs of this game, I think, are worth it.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I'm much more on the hitting side myself, but I definitely understand that. That makes a lot of sense. All right, next up, Mets and KC sheets.
I'll go right back to the Mets again. The Mets are the other team that I have rated both as decent value and as decent just regular upside or whatever. That game was just for those of you who didn't see. First of all, this game was 1-1 going into the 8th, and then next thing you know, the whole game just kind of exploded, and then the Mets were going to go to extra innings, and they had their pitcher had Kansas City runner on first, 2 outs. Then it was walk, walk, and then like a disengagement penalty to get home the winning run after a day where they basically emptied their entire team. I mean, it's like pure demoralization. I mean, on many levels.
Not to mention the error right before that to keep the runner. I mean, it just
just pure demoralization.
Yeah.
So I do like Senga. I do like the Mets, and I would actually play the just on the demoralization angle. I'll give this. I'll play the Mets on the money line today. I don't know exactly what it is. They're probably a small favorite, right? I mean, they have to be.
They're a solid favorite, yeah, minus 176.
So I'll play the Mets on the money line, and if they have to give the run and a half to make it reasonable, I'll do that. So that'll be my anti-demoralization play. And so again, Senga, Mets, and
yeah, pretty strong winds blowing in this one, 10 miles an hour from basically center field, a little bit of right center. 89 degrees though, so don't worry too much about it. I don't think that much of this Mets lineup, to be honest. I thought they were very fortunate to get there last night, and I will just avoid them probably with the exception of maybe including Alonso Alvarez or I don't know. I guess with Marte back, it's a little bit better, and he should be back. Lindor or Marte, but I just don't think I want to fully stack this game. I think it's going to be really, really popular. I think this might actually be more popular or close to Chicago and KC, but we don't know who's pitching yet for KC. They don't. I
have the Cole Reagans.
Yeah, that doesn't mean it could be anybody, and more likely that just means it's a bullpen game. Is my guess, but yeah. So I'd like to know who's pitching before I figure it out. And I will probably try to avoid the Mets shock.
So what do you think of the my Red Roth's weather report on this Arizona San Francisco?
Oh, by the way, I like Senga a lot more than I did yesterday. I forgot to mention that. I do like Senga. Sorry, guys. Jeez.
I don't know if you read Roth's weather report on this Arizona San Francisco game. I don't know exactly what this means, but apparently it's just like incredible winds in San Francisco. And I don't know exactly how that impacts, but I'll take a shot. I don't know. So I'll throw San Francisco lefties in here against whoever this dude is, and we'll see how projections do whatever, and we'll see what this wind is really all about, or maybe it's just an illusion or whatever. But I definitely think San Francisco is worth a shot. And again, until I figure out what this win thing is, I'm not going to play Logan Webb at 9,800. But if in fact it's just like a normal day, I'll definitely have Webb in my mix.
It's a normal day. I don't think there's anything to read into the thing. He just is saying we see this every day. Like it's always 20 miles. So if it's 25, it's not going to make a difference. Like yeah, sure, it helps better than not, but it's to me not very relevant. But I do like San Francisco a lot. And I think that they make a ton of sense. I also think it's probably worth noting that there's a little hype on this. Terrible, but it's hard to know what the hell that means. But he was really bad. Like, and there was apparently at one point this guy was a pretty decent prospect. I don't know how long he'll stay in there. He's actually looking like he might get a little bit of ownership because the Giants strike out so much. But I think I'd just side with the Giants stack. And just the fact that, look, I like my Giants rule is if it's 60 degrees, I feel much better about playing them. And I will take a shot with the Giants as my favorite along with Cincinnati, Chicago that we've talked about so far. Well, and I'm fine with Webb. I like Webb, but it's just a matter of weighing the top guys. They're all very close to me.
Yeah, so I guess I'll start off with Oakland Dodgers. I like both parts of the Dodgers in this game. I like Gonsolin. That's another guy we talked about last night just when we were looking at the slate here. I don't know if he's kind of ever been on the winning lineup, to turn a phrase.
He was a ton of times last year because remember nobody played him, and he went 16-1 basically with like a less than 2 ERA, and he never cost very much. So,
but I will say this in the we'll look through this like Toronto at Texas at Mets, home against Angels, or the at KC. It was a complete catastrophe.
Yeah.
He did have a big game against the White Sox. Did have a big game against San Diego. I don't know. I mean, but listen, he's got a lot of win equity, that's for sure. In this game, they're probably like a 3-1 favorite in this game.
Yeah, they're big ones. Yeah, exactly 3-1.
And to that point, I think the Dodgers are very, very good stack. Tough to get to some of them, I guess. But I'll tell you what, the pickup of Rosario, I don't know how it's going to really play out, but he definitely makes like Dodgers stacks kind of go a little bit. Like he's less than 4K. He doesn't hit home runs, but he's gets around the bases. You know what I mean? He knocks some guys in. So I like Rosario to make the Dodgers stack a little cheaper, and if Taylor gets in, whatever. So Dodgers. Some reason the Gonsolin play just kind of feels bad, but he does rate right now for me, just to be in full disclosure. He rates the top point per dollar play on the slate for me.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll just throw that out there. But I definitely think if you can get to the Dodgers, you can play.
Yeah, I'm good with. Gonsolin is one of the 6 guys that I have that I'm considering, and I do think the Dodgers are pretty clearly the top stack that you'd want to get to tonight. Like you said, a little bit hard to get to. The problem with the Rosario thing is it's really not like it's like one of those plays that you're going to play because of where he's hitting in the lineup and his price and then where he's at on this team. He doesn't walk, he doesn't hit for power, and to be honest, once the Dodgers are fully healthy, I think you're going to see him more as like a 7-8 hitter, not a 4 hitter, like he should be. So he should be a 7-8-9 hitter basically on this team. But we don't have JD right now. If JD plays today, however, the Dodgers stack looks a lot better to me, but they also become much more expensive. So it's just a matter of what you're willing to gamble on, because you're going to see Oakland bring in a relief pitcher. You're going to see did Kike get his at bats yesterday? I think he did yesterday. But that was interesting to see. But you never know with which righty they're going to pull out of there. I don't remember who they pulled because I know Peralta hit late. So did somebody else who was a lefty. I can't remember who it was. But yeah, I like the Dodgers. They're going to be popular. Maybe mix the Dodgers with Giants because they won't be popular. Maybe mix one of the Cubs or Reds with Giants. That seems like a way to get a little bit off the board. And for pitching, I'm trying to decide. I think most likely I go with one of Cole or McClanahan, and then I'm trying to decide between Cease, Senga, Webb, and Gonsolin. So I'm going to see what lineup builds I can get with that.
As I mentioned, I'm probably not going to be. I won't be able to go live, but I will be around to update projections. And by the way, for those of you that really have not been following along, Goldie is really doing a great job with updating projections.
Yeah,
I mean, especially when listen, that was the original reason why I wanted him to come on board in the first place. Like, to give you guys a little bit of history, like I was looking for someone to just kind of help me out. You know what I mean? So that I don't have to always be responsible for always updating projections. And Goldie's whatever. Goldie's just totally taken over. You know what I mean? Like he does, quite honestly, just a better job than I do of getting these things updated. So just because like the true DFS projections don't get put up there, Goldie gets them up there really, really frequently. Hell of a lot more than I do. And quite honestly, the difference between his and mine are not that much anyway. So if I'm never around to like put stuff up, I mean, especially with baseball, I mean, you could have a lot of confidence. And then again, just to tout Goldie again, he does also a really good deep dive into, or at least deeper dive into all the games, like most of the days. I mean, and for those of you that really want to get into the weeds a little bit, his videos are really, really informative. So I strongly recommend you check those out.
Yeah, and I know there was a little bit of a problem with his recording today, so today is going to be a hard one to check it out. But I agree, it's one of the best in the industry, and it's really in depth and will help you learn as well as help your play that day.
So basically, in summary, you really got to go over and check the Goldie videos out, but not today.
It's just not today. Yeah. I mean, the Wednesdays are always weird anyway with the split slates and everything.
Okay. By
the time you watch the first one, it's already, the games have started. All right, so I'll be back. I'll be live at 6, guys. Yeah, please click the like button before you get out of here. I do think that, again, Cole, McClanahan, the way I've got it, I have those guys very close. I have everybody really close. I think Senga would be my next favorite with C's right after him, and then Gonsolin and Webb, but I might need to use Gonsolin for salary purposes. Asheets, anything else before we turn this off and start doing some golf?
No, we're good.
Okay, good luck, everybody.